Do you remember what it felt like to be completely, hopelessly lost with your entire family in the car? Not lost for 5 minutes while phone recalculates. Lost for an hour, with your dad pulled over on the shoulder, turning a paper map upside down, hoping it would suddenly make sense. If you grew up before GPS, you know that feeling. You also know the rules, the unwritten ones every family followed without ever writing them down. Rules about who sat where, how snacks got rationed, and what happened the moment somebody asked how much longer. Today on American Rewind Files, we're opening the case on 10 forgotten rules of family road trips before GPS. The quiet traditions that shaped every summer vacation in America and disappeared the moment a voice in the dashboard started giving directions. 1. The map lived in the glove box. Have you ever tried unfolding a full-size road map inside a moving car? Nearly impossible. The map lived in the glove box, folded along worn creases that never quite went back right, and came out the moment Dad needed to find the next exit. Whoever sat in the passenger seat became the navigator, tracing routes with a finger and calling out towns about to come up. Gas stations gave these maps away free well into the 1970s, which is why every family had a stack from different states crammed in that glove box. Once GPS arrived in the early 2000s, that stack quietly stopped growing, and the map became something you only find in a thrift store now. 2. Someone had to be the official navigator. Before a calm voice could tell you to turn left in 400 feet, somebody in the car had to do that job. Usually whoever was old enough to read but young enough to still want the responsibility. Being navigator meant holding the map and announcing turns with way more confidence than the situation called for. Get it wrong, and the whole car let you know about it. Get it right, and you felt like you had genuinely accomplished something. Families had their own systems. Some rotated the job, some always gave it to Mom, some never trusted anyone but Dad. When GPS took over completely, a small ritual of family responsibility quietly went with it. 3. The cooler road in the middle. Every family road trip before the 1990s had a cooler, and it had a specific spot, wedged into the middle of the backseat, between whichever two kids ended up unlucky enough to sit beside it. It held sandwiches made that morning, a few sodas, maybe some fruit gone slightly warm by hour 3. Stopping to buy food felt wasteful to a lot of families, especially with gas prices climbing to the 1970s. So the cooler did the job a drive-through does today. Kids learned to live around it, propping their feet on top during long highway stretches. As fast food spread along every interstate exit by the 1990s, packing a cooler started feeling like more trouble than it was worth, and the tradition slowly faded out. 4. You counted license plates to pass the time, long before phones and tablets. Kids needed something to do, and one common answer was a simple game: counting license plates from different states. Spotting a plate from somewhere far away, like Hawaii or Alaska, earned bragging rights for the rest of the trip. Some families kept actual lists, checking off states as they went, turning a boring stretch of interstate into a quiet competition. It cost nothing, needed no batteries, and somehow kept kids occupied for impressively long stretches. The game never fully disappeared, but it lost its grip the moment portable DVD players, and then tablets gave kids something more immediately entertaining to stare at instead. 5. Are we there yet had an actual answer. Before GPS gave you an arrival time down to the minute, the answer to "Are we there yet?" was usually a rough guess based on how the trip felt. Parents would say about 2 more hours with total confidence, even with no precise idea, because there was no way to know for certain until you actually arrived. This created a strange kind of trust. You believed the estimate because there was no other option, and the not knowing became part of the experience itself. Long highway stretches with no clear sense of progress taught a patience that doesn't really get practiced anymore. Once GPS started counting down the minutes in real time, that vague, hopeful guessing game quietly disappeared for good. 6. Rest stops were an event, not an inconvenience. A highway rest stop in the 1960s or 70s wasn't just a bathroom break. It was often the most exciting part of the whole drive for a carload of restless kids. These stops had picnic tables, sometimes a small playground, vending machines stocked with snacks, nobody got a home. Families would treat a rest stop like a genuine destination, spreading a blanket, eating lunch at a table instead of in the car, letting kids run around before getting back on the road. As highways modernized through the 1990s and 2000s, rest stops became smaller and far less interesting, mostly just a gas station and a quick bathroom break now, with a version that used to feel like a small adventure mostly gone. 7. Dad drove and nobody questioned it. In most American families before the 1990s, there was an unspoken rule about who got behind the wheel on a long trip, and it was almost always Dad. He drove the long stretches, sometimes 6 or 7 hours without much of a break, while everyone settled into their roles around him. This wasn't really a question. It was simply how things worked, shaped by the era's expectations about who did what in a family. Moms often managed the snacks, the map, and the kids, while Dad focused entirely on the road. As driving responsibilities became more shared to the 1990s and 2000s, that old rigid arrangement slowly faded into something far more equal and far less automatic. 8. You made your own entertainment. There were no screens in the backseat before the 1990s. So kids got creative, and most families developed their own games to survive long stretches of boredom. The alphabet game, spotting cows out the window, making up stories about other cars, singing songs everyone half remembered. These weren't planned activities. They were survival tactics born of pure boredom. Parents sometimes joined in, turning a tedious drive into something that actually felt like quality time, even if nobody called it that back then. These games required nothing but imagination and a willingness to be a little silly in front of your siblings. Portable entertainment changed all of that fairly quickly, and the games faded out, remembered now only by the people who grew up playing them. 9. Getting lost was just part of the trip. Before GPS, getting lost on a road trip wasn't a crisis. It was simply expected, a normal part of traveling anywhere unfamiliar. Wrong turns happened constantly, and families developed small rituals around them. Pulling into a gas station to ask for directions, unfolding the map on the hood of the car, occasionally just driving until something looked familiar again. These detours sometimes led to genuinely memorable moments. A diner nobody would have found otherwise, a strange roadside attraction, a small town that became part of the family stories. There was a kind of acceptance built into travel back then, an understanding that the plan was always somewhat loose. GPS effectively eliminated that, turning travel into something precise and predictable, and the accidental discoveries went with it. 10. The whole family planned the route together. Before a phone could calculate the fastest path in 2 seconds, planning a road trip was an actual event that happened around a kitchen table, sometimes weeks in advance. Spreading out maps, circling places to stop, debating which highway made more sense, marking landmarks worth seeing. This was something the whole family did together, not something delegated to an app. Kids got a say in where to stop. Parents negotiated the route based on gas stations and motels they trusted, and the plan came together slowly, through actual conversation. That shared planning built anticipation long before anyone got in the car. As GPS made route planning instant and automatic, that collective kitchen table ritual quietly disappeared, replaced by a few taps on a screen the morning of departure. Oyutiaro, 10 rules, 10 small rituals that shaped nearly every American family road trip for decades, built around the simple reality of not quite knowing exactly where you were going or when you'd get there. GPS made travel easier and far more precise. Nobody's arguing against that. But something about the uncertainty, the shared navigating, the slightly chaotic teamwork of getting a family from one place to another without a screen telling you how, has quietly disappeared along the way. If any of these brought back a memory of your own family's road trips, tell us about it in the comments below. Subscribe to American Rewind Files for more stories like this, and we'll see you in the next case file.